Project for today is this little Yamaha TTR 90 dirt bike. I think it's a 2000, something like that. The exhaust has a busted spot in it right here we're going to try to fix, and looks like the carburetor actually just fell off of the thing. The bolts came right out of it, so we have to try to find some bolts, and then there should be a spacer that goes in between there. We'll have to see if we can find that. I think there was a couple parts with it when it got dropped off, so I'm hoping that we have that spacer. Otherwise that one we might have to order. And it looks like the exhaust is rubbing on the tire there. There's not much clearance, so we'll have to deal with that too. I'll get you set up and we'll get started. I gotta take this side panel off here. Just a couple of 10mm bolts. I did find the little carb spacer that goes in there. So it looks like, I think the nut stayed in there. So we just need bolts to go through. Then a couple of new O-rings, which I did grab. A little bit too big. I'll do some looking and find the right O-rings and bring you back. Alright, I found a couple O-rings. The one is a little bit too thick, but we'll see if it'll squish down in there. If it won't, I'll have to get the right one. I found a couple of metric bolts that fit in here. I think they were supposed to have 8mm heads on them though, so it might be kind of hard to get a wrench in here. Get this one on the back side. I think they got it started. I'll probably end up having to take the air box off. We got on the other side. Take this panel off also. Looks like nothing is holding that on. It's missing the bolts there too. I don't know if somebody was already messing with this one or what. I'll just pull it off the side like that. I should be able to get a wrench in there. I don't know what's holding it up above. I can pull it. Oh, it's just through a... And the spark plug wire is hooked on it. I don't work on these dirt bikes very often, so this isn't really my specialty. Kind of learning as we go. I have to take that fuel line off too. A bunch of dirt. We'll have to Careful we don't get dirt down in there. Got that one a little bit snug. I don't want to tighten it all the way until I get this other one over here tight. That one's tight. Kind of looks like the bolts down here on this intake aren't tight either. I'll grab a Allen head and tighten those when we get these done. Okay. Yeah, those definitely look loose. Hopefully it didn't vibrate and wreck the gasket down in there. I'll just try tightening it for now. We'll check for leaks. That one's tight. And that one was loose. They're pretty little, so you don't want to over tighten them. But they definitely should have been tighter than that. Make sure we didn't get any dirt in there. I'll turn the fuel on for a second, flush that out. Should probably put a clamp on there too. I just want to try running it, and we'll spray some carb cleaner on that intake and see if it's leaking. I'll climb up there and give it a couple kicks, see if it goes. I might have to turn it on reserve. Might not be enough fuel in it. carb kit for this if we got to replace that float needle seat. Seems to run okay, it's just idling too high. It's dripping fuel pretty good out of that carburetor. That's the vent tube for the carburetor. What I was doing is I was spraying carburetor cleaner around where the intake meets the head, and then around the carb flange there. If you spray carb clean in there and the engine starts to sputter or speeds up or dies, you know that it's sucking air there, so it'll suck the carb clean through. So it's a good way to check for leaks. I don't know if we got some dirt in there from that line, or I was going to go through this anyway. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't need gaskets or anything. And this choke, as you can see, once you got to push it back in. Once you pull it, it just stays out. So I'm thinking that's part of our high idle problem too. So we'll start digging into that, I guess. I decided I'm just going to take the carburetor right off of it. Every time I try to not do that and just take the float bowl off or something, it always bites me and ends up having to come off anyway. So I think I'm just going to pull it all the way off, do it the right way. Especially since I have the rebuild kit for it, we'll do the whole thing. And now that I got that choke out of there, I'm gonna try that and see if it's just the way the cable's routed. The actual cable is just gummy, I think. You can see that's the choke plunger. And that's just the breather hose here. You do want to make sure that breather hose is clear. If those plug, that'll also make a carb leak a lot of the time. I'll take this back off, and then there's two little wires on the top here. Then once we get it off, we'll take those screws out for the throttle slide. It did look like somebody had messed with the idle adjustment, is why it was idling so high. One's on the other side. There we go. Leave that bolt there. Well, there we go. Pull that out of there. I'll go drain that out and get it on the bench, and we'll get started rebuilding. Well, we got it on the bench. I blew it off of there, get some of that dirt off of there too. Pop the float bowl off and see what we got. It might have been just this drain screw not seated all the way. It was coming out of there pretty fast, and it didn't seem like it was running rich like it would do if the actual needle was stuck. There's a little bit of corrosion in there, but nothing too terrible. pull this pin out for the float. That doesn't look bad. You can kind of see, you can't really tell on camera as much, but you can usually see if there's little wear marks in the tip of the needle. It's got a little bit of use on it looks like. There's a little bit of little pieces of junk in there. Oh yeah, you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see down in that hole or not. There's a piece of dirt down in there. Must have been. We probably did that with that fuel line. I'll spray that out. You can get dirt at them through the breather too if you're riding in deeper mud and stuff. There's no filter on that breather. That looks better. I'll do one more time backwards through the needle seat. I'm just gonna put this back in and we'll test it quick. I'll show you how we do that. Got this little pop-off valve you just pump with your finger. You want to hold the carb upside down and you pump it just a little bit past, usually 6 or 7. If the gauge holds, you're usually good. My line doesn't fit quite tight, so it's probably leaking a little bit around there, but I usually just pop up like that and then it drops back down. That seems to be holding good enough. I could use a smaller line on there, but I can try that and see. Yeah, now you can see it's holding. So I lift up on the float. As long as that holds, you usually won't leak. But the other thing that can make it leak is this screw down here. It is just a drain, so when you release that, you could drain, like if you had water down in the bottom of the float bowl you thought or something, you could drain it out and it comes out that hole here. But then it also has this tube in here, and if the fuel level gets over the top of that, it's going to drain down through and it's going to still come out that same hole in the bottom. But I think it was that float was overflowing. I was just kind of surprised it wasn't overflowing and causing the engine to flood worse. So I don't think we really need the rebuild kit. We'll just spray this out. And it was running pretty decent, so the jets should be clear. Otherwise, you would normally want to take these out and run some wire or something through there. Make sure those were clear, because you got the 2 jets here, and then your needle and seats are the 3 most important things you want to make sure that are super clean. But we'll try putting this back together and see what happens. Their gasket popped out. Those will get stretched out sometimes. I have had luck every once in a while if they get stretched out. I've put them in the freezer and they seem to kind of shrink. A lot of guys used to say you put some heat on them and it would shrink them up, but that actually would make it worse. They would get bigger because the thought was they swelled up from gas and stuff soaking into them. So you'd want to dry that out, but it just makes them more pliable, and they seem to actually get bigger. One other thing I've tried, I haven't had too much luck with it, but somebody said to dunk them in like boiling water and let them sit for a while, but I've never really gotten that to work. They might have been just stretched too far. We'll get that put back on there, and then we'll try it out again. You do want to make sure this throttle slide, it has the little line going up the side here. You want to make sure that's opposite of your adjustment for the idle. Otherwise it won't go, it'll fit in there, but it won't go down all the way because the other side just has a groove like that. So it'll kind of take off on you if you put them in the wrong way. You can kind of look in there too and see that it's down all the way once you get it in there. If you're unsure that it didn't go, you'll see it's up quite a ways if it's in there backwards. I've had a few of them where customers brought them in idling super fast. They're like stuck quarter throttle, which can be pretty dangerous, and if you got it on a kid's dirt bike, you don't really want that. And we'll turn the gas back on and see if it leaks. Hopefully it doesn't. Put this vent tube back on it. So far so good. Nothing coming out of there. Get you back in a stand and we'll try firing it up again, and we'll adjust that idle, and hopefully it doesn't leak once it starts running. Well, before I even got a chance to fire it up, it started leaking again. So I'm thinking we have up inside the tank here, there's a screen filter. I'm guessing that has fallen off of there, or it's just broken. So it's letting dirt and stuff through there, which we also probably have junk in the tank then. So I'll put an inline filter in it, but we'll have to take it apart one more time and flush that out, because I'm sure another chunk of dirt or something got in there. Well, I decided before I tried that again, I took this screw right out of here and I let the fuel drain out to flush it out, and then I put it back in. So that must have had a piece of dirt behind it or something. Somebody must have pulled that out to let it drain, and then when they put it back in, they crushed a piece of dirt behind it or something. So I cleaned that up, and it doesn't seem to be leaking now. So now we can try firing it up and see what happens. That seems okay. It's a little bit doggy when you first hit the throttle hard, but it doesn't have the airbox on there, so it might be running kind of lean yet. I'm gonna throw the airbox back on there. I'll probably check the air cleaner in it since we have it off of there, and then probably take it for a test drive and see what happens. It didn't seem to be leaking any fuel now, so that's good. So I'll get that done, and then we'll probably bring you back for a test drive. I decided we better change the oil on it before we take it for a test drive. It was pretty low. Figured we might as well just change it. These don't hold very much. Just a 12mm head on the drain plug down here by the left side foot peg. Yeah, it looks pretty dark. I'm glad we decided to change it. I'm also going to try to straighten out that shifter. It's bent all the way around. I don't even know how they were getting their foot underneath it. Try to put a channel locks on it. See if we can bend it straight without breaking it. That might be good enough for now. It does have a little bit of a crack in it, but it's pretty thick metal there, so it should hold. I'll get that plug back in and filled back up, and still got to put the side panels back on it. But other than that, and maybe lube the chain, we should be good to go on this one. I'll go take it for a ride. Well, I got it pushed outside and take it for a little test drive, see how it does. It started in one kick, that's a good sign. Seems like it's running pretty good. I don't think that turned out too bad. The chain might be a little bit too tight, but I got it all lubed up and sitting here idling pretty good. Well, that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, please like the videos and subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you on the next one.